FBI Assistant Director of the FBI, Michael Steinbach, expressed significant concerns with screening Syrian refugees. I don't see how this can be denied. I don't see how you can gloss over this. He says, quote, "The concern in Syria is that we don't have systems in places on the ground to collect information to vet." That would be the concern, is we would be vetting databases that don't hold information on those individuals, and that is the concern. He went on to say, you're talking about a country that is a failed state, that is, does not have any infrastructure, so to speak. So all of the data sets, the police, the intel services that normally you would go to seek information don't exist. Now, Mr. Emmerich, you query these systems. Is that your responsibility? Just yes or no. Do you supervise them making the inquiries?
I do.
And if there's no database to query, then how can you have valid information?
There is data that we check against, and we'd be happy to describe this to you in a different setting.
Well, you just tell us under oath. You're a public official. Do you think there's adequate data when you query these databases? Are you likely to have any valuable information from them?
I will tell you that we often find valuable information and that we check every single thing that is available.
I'm sure you check everything that's available. But Mr. Steinbach, I think, is making the plain fact that there are no real databases in Syria to check. Isn't that right?
We check everything that we are aware of within U.S. government holdings. We are either inquiring about, looking into, or we currently check.
All right.
So as far as I'm concerned, if we haven't overturned every stone, we are in the process of overturning every stone that we find.
Well, there you go again. We're turning over everything that we can overturn. I don't deny that. American police officers check the National Crime Information Center on everybody they arrest. But they don't have a National Crime Information Center. You don't have access to their criminal history records. Those are in Assad's, I guess, control. They don't have a computer database that you can access. And so isn't Mr. Steinbach telling the truth? Do you disagree with what I read from him, that the things that you would normally check just don't exist?
I would point out that in many countries of the world from which we have traditionally accepted refugees over the years, the United States government did not have extensive data holdings.
Can you name a single computer database outside of maybe some of our very, very small but significantly valuable intelligence databases for Syria that you run a check against? Does Syria have any that you can access?
The government of Syria does not, no, sir.
All right, so fundamentally, they're the ones that keep records. So we keep them in the United States on people who are arrested and so forth, but you don't have access to any if they exist in Syria.
As Ms. Streck mentioned, in most cases these individuals do have documents from Syria. We do have various ways of identifying those documents. As she described, our officers are trained in fraud detection. And I would be happy to, we'd be happy to brief you in another setting on some of the ways that we have to do this.
I'm asking you to talk to the American people. American people are asking you a question. I read what Mr. FBI director said. He said there's no database to check. He suggests there's no way that they can get sufficient information on, implies a substantial majority of these persons. So aren't you left to basically looking at whatever document they produce and conducting an interview?
I can assure the American people that we have a robust series of screening measures here that encompass the wide range of U.S. government resources that involve U.S. law enforcement agencies and intelligence community members, that these processes and these screening measures are constantly reviewed, that we are continuously looking at ways to improve these, that they incorporate both biometric and biographic checks. They incorporate an in-depth interview with a trained U.S. government officer. They involve an additional interview, or inspection rather, when the person presents himself or herself at the U.S. port of entry.
I've been in law enforcement 15 years. I know how the National Crime Information Center works. I know how you run background checks, Mr. Emery. There's no way you can do background checks of any significance. I'm sure we have some intelligence data on a number of people throughout the region. And if you get a hit on that, I'm sure you would reject them. But you have only a minuscule number of people that have been identified, I'm sure, in that fashion. And I don't believe you can tell us with any certainty that you have an ability to conduct an efficient background check. And let's say you have no information. Let's say there's a question. Do you have any ability to send an investigator to Iraq to check and see if the person actually lived on this street, actually had the job he claims to have had?
While we do not have the ability to send an investigator to Syria, we do have resources that we can use to verify various elements of someone's testimony and story.
Well, I'm sure there are things you could do. But are you telling us you can do that for a majority of the people that you interview? Do you have the ability for a majority of the people you interview to have independent data of value to help identify them?
We, in many cases, are able to find independent data.
In many cases, I ask a majority.
I cannot quantify. I have seen
More, 20% or 80% you get positive data from. Can you tell us? Is it less than 20 or more than 80?
I can't give you a number.
Well, the reason is you don't have the ability. I wish you did, but you don't.